My name is Olivia Carter. I'm 29 years old. And the strange thing about the moment your future quietly falls apart is that it doesn't sound like a disaster when it happens. There's no shouting, no slammed doors, no cinematic music swelling in the background to warn you that something irreversible has just begun. Sometimes, it happens in the middle of a conversation about party decorations. Ethan Hayes and I had been together for 2.5 years. Not living together yet, but close enough that we had routines. Toothbrush at his place, spare hoodie at mine, grocery lists that somehow merged into one life without us ever officially saying it out loud. We had talked about moving in, about timelines, about the future. I had even, quietly, secretly, started imagining what it would feel like when he proposed. Not if, when. We were sitting in his apartment, going over details for his birthday party. He wanted something big, a rooftop venue downtown. String lights, curated playlists, that kind of effortless aesthetic people pretend isn't exhausting to maintain. I had already sent over $500 for the deposit, promised to split the bar tab, helped him compare venues, guest lists, even the photographer. I thought this was something we were building together. He was scrolling through the guest list on his phone when he said it. So, I've been thinking about the vibe I want. I looked up from my laptop. Yeah, what are you thinking? I want it to be really high energy, like everyone dancing, drinking, actually having fun. I smiled a little. That's what we planned, right? He set his phone down. And then he said something that, at the time, didn't even register as serious. But okay, don't take this the wrong way. That sentence, it should come with a warning label. I think it would be better if you didn't come. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain needed a second to catch up. What? Just hear me out, he said quickly. You're amazing. I love you, but you're not really a party person. I blinked at him. What does that have to do with anything? You kind of just stand in the corner, he continued, almost gently. You have one drink, you don't really talk to people, and my friends have noticed. There was a pause, the kind that stretches just long enough for the meaning to sink in. Noticed what? I asked quietly. That you're awkward, he said. He didn't say it cruelly. That was the worst part. He said it like it was a fact, like he was doing me a favor by being honest. I felt something in my chest tighten. Not break, not yet, just tighten. And this is your solution, I asked? To uninvite me from your birthday? I'm not uninviting you, he said quickly. I'm just saying maybe for this one night you sit it out. Sit it out, like I was a substitute player in my own relationship. You can take me to dinner the next day, he added. Just us. That would mean more anyway. I stared at him. You're serious? I just want one night, he said, his tone shifting slightly, where I don't have to worry about whether you're comfortable. I want to just enjoy it. I never asked you to worry about me. You don't have to ask, he replied. I see it. You look miserable. I don't look miserable. He hesitated. You kind of do. That was the moment something cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a quiet, precise way that made it impossible to ignore. Which friend said that? I asked. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. He exhaled, frustrated now. Look, the point is, I've noticed it too. You don't dance. You barely engage. And it makes me feel like I can't fully enjoy myself because I'm constantly checking on you. I never asked you to do that. I know, he said, but I'm your boyfriend. That's what I do. And your solution, I said slowly, is to remove me entirely. It's one night, Olivia. Why are you making this such a big deal? We argued for 20 minutes after that. Not screaming, just circling the same wound from different angles. By the time I left, the apartment felt colder than when I'd arrived. He didn't walk me out. Didn't kiss me goodbye. We didn't talk for 2 days. 2 quiet, heavy days where I replayed the conversation over and over again. At first, I tried to see his side. Tried to convince myself he didn't mean it the way it sounded. But the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. He wasn't trying to protect me. He was trying to protect the image of his party. From me. And then, somewhere between the second night and the third morning, something inside me shifted. Not anger, not even sadness. Something colder, more precise. Because here's what Ethan didn't seem to realize. Out of the 35 people invited to his party, I had known 28 of them before he ever met them. My college roommate and her husband. My coworker and her partner. My cousin and his friends. Even the photographer, a friend from high school. Those weren't just his guests. They were mine too. So instead of arguing again, instead of begging to be included in something I had helped build, I opened my phone, created a group chat. 22 people, everyone except Ethan, and the 3 friends who were actually his. I stared at the empty message box for a long moment. Then I typed, Hey everyone, slight change of plans for the 23rd. I'm hosting something at my place instead. Casual night. pizza, drinks, games. Would love to see you there. I hit send. And just like that, everything started moving. The responses started coming in faster than I expected. At first, just a few notifications, then a steady stream, then a flood. Wait, what about Ethan's party? Are you guys doing separate things now? Did I miss something? I stared at the messages for a moment, considering how much truth to give them. Not the whole story, not the humiliation, just enough. Yeah, I typed back. He decided to keep his things smaller, more intimate. I still wanted to see everyone, so I'm hosting something at my place. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Then, oh, okay, makes sense. I'm in. Honestly, that sounds way more chill. And then the message that shifted everything. Is there like a cover or anything? I paused. And that's when I made the most calculated move of the entire situation. Nope, no minimum. Just bring whatever you want. The rooftop venue Ethan had chosen? $40 minimum per person. Before drinks. Before food. Before anything. I had warned him about it. He'd brushed it off. Aesthetic, he'd said. It's worth it. Maybe it was. But most of our friends were in their late 20s, early 30s. Normal jobs, normal budgets. $40 just to exist in a space. That mattered more than he realized. Within 3 hours, 16 people had confirmed. By the next morning, it was 20. And that's when my phone rang. Ethan. I let it ring twice before answering. Hey, what the hell are you doing? No greeting, no hesitation. Straight to it. I'm hosting something that night, I said calmly. On my birthday. Near your birthday, I corrected. It's just a Saturday. You're taking my guests. They're not your guests, Ethan. They're coming to your party instead of mine. I leaned back against the couch, strangely calm. You said you wanted an intimate group. I'm giving you exactly that. This is petty. What's petty, I said quietly, is telling your girlfriend she ruins the vibe and shouldn't come to your birthday. I didn't say it like that. You told me not to come. Because you make it weird. There it was. Again. Clearer this time. Sharper. And now you're proving me right, he continued. You're making this whole thing about you. I'm not making it about me, I said. I'm just not sitting home alone while my boyfriend celebrates without me. That's not what You said you didn't want me there, I cut in, so I made other plans. There was silence on the other end. Heavy. Frustrated. You're unbelievable, he muttered. And then he hung up. 2 hours later, I got a text from his best friend. Can we talk? We met at a coffee shop halfway between our apartments. She didn't waste time. She's freaking out, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. I raised an eyebrow slightly. That's unfortunate. Olivia. What? You know what you're doing. I took a slow sip of my coffee. I'm hosting a party. You're sabotaging his. No, I said calmly. I'm not forcing anyone to come to mine. They're choosing to. She's your boyfriend. She told me I'd ruin her birthday by existing at it. She sighed, rubbing her temple. Look, she was harsh. I'm not defending that. But this? She gestured vaguely. This is vindictive. Is it? I asked. Because I had been asking myself the same question, over and over, and every time I came back to the same answer. I'm not trying to hurt him, I said. I'm just not protecting him from the consequences of what he said. That sounds like something you practiced in the mirror. I almost smiled. Maybe I did. She leaned forward slightly. He's your boyfriend. You don't think maybe this is going too far? I held her gaze. I think what's going too far is being so embarrassed of your partner that you'd rather exclude them than stand next to them. That landed. I could see it. The flicker of discomfort. She looked down at her coffee, then back up at me. Are you going to cancel? No. Not even if she asks? I thought about that. About the version of him that might show up at my door. Apologetic. Soft. Regretful. But then I remembered his voice. You kind of do. That quiet certainty. That casual dismissal. No, I said. She exhaled slowly. Okay. But the way she said it felt less like acceptance, and more like the moment someone realizes a collision is unavoidable. Teammates. The next 2 weeks were cold. Not explosive. Not dramatic. Just distant. Ethan texted occasionally. Short messages. Can we talk? You're blowing this out of proportion. Just cancel your thing. I responded less and less. Until eventually, I stopped responding at all. He tried other angles. Mutual friends. Subtle pressure. Hey, just so you know, Ethan's really upset. I feel awkward choosing between you guys. But most of them had already committed. Not because I asked them to, but because they had chosen. And that seemed to bother him more than anything. 3 days before the party, he showed up at my door. I knew it was him before I opened it. The knock was too familiar. Too specific. When I opened the door, he looked different. Not angry. Not defensive. Just tired. Please, he said. No hello. No buildup. Just that one word. Cancel your party. I crossed my arms lightly. No. Olivia, people already made plans. They made plans with you instead of me. His voice cracked slightly on the last word. And for a second, just a second, I saw something real. Not ego. Not frustration. Something closer to fear. Do you know how that feels? He asked. And that's when something inside me went completely still. Yeah, I said. He blinked. What? It feels like being told you ruined the vibe. Silence. Sharp. Immediate. I said I was sorry for that, he muttered. No, I said quietly. You didn't. Yes, I did. You said you were harsh. That's not the same thing. He frowned. You never said you were wrong. His jaw tightened. Because he knew. I wasn't wrong, he said finally. And there it was, the final piece. You are awkward at parties. Something inside me didn't break, didn't shatter, didn't even hurt the way I expected it to. It just went quiet. Get out, I said. He blinked. What? Get out of my apartment. Olivia, go plan your party, I said. Your perfect party, with your perfect vibe. Are you breaking up with me? I hesitated. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because saying it out loud would make it real. I don't know yet, I said. But I know I don't want you here. He stared at me for a long moment, like he was waiting for me to change my mind, to soften, to fix it. I didn't. He left. The door closed. And this time, it didn't feel like an argument. It felt like something ending, quietly, irreversibly. 3 days later, it was the night of the party, and everything we had been building toward finally collided. The first person arrived at 6:52 p.m., 8 minutes early. Of course, it was Jason. He always showed up early to everything. Parties, dinners, even casual hangouts. Like he didn't quite trust time to behave unless he kept an eye on it. Hey, he said, holding up a six-pack like an offering. I brought backup. I smiled, stepping aside to let him in. Good. You're going to need it. By 7:15, there were already 10 people in my apartment. Music low but steady. Voices overlapping. That familiar hum of something building. By 7:45, it was full. Not uncomfortably packed, but alive. People sitting on the floor, leaning against walls, laughing too loudly at things that probably weren't that funny. The kind of energy you can't fake, no matter how much money you throw at a venue. Someone had brought a projector. By 8 o'clock, Mario Kart was playing against my living room wall. 2 people were arguing over shortcuts like it was a professional sport. Someone else had brought their dog, which turned out to be the best decision of the night, because within minutes, half the room was gathered around it like it was the guest of honor. Pizza started arriving in waves. 4 different places. Too much food. Exactly the right amount of chaos. I moved through the room slowly. Not hosting. Not performing. Just existing inside it. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to monitor myself. Didn't feel like I was being observed. Evaluated. Measured against some invisible standard of what I should be. Around 9 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from my cousin. This is the most fun I've had in years. I stared at it for a second, then locked my phone without replying. Because I already knew something was happening. I could feel it. Not in the room, but somewhere else. At 9:30, the door opened again, and everything shifted. It was Ethan's best friend. She stepped inside slowly, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to be there. Her eyes scanned the room, took in the laughter, the noise, the ease of it all. What happened to his party? I asked. She let out a breath. It's still happening. Something in her tone made my chest tighten slightly. How many people showed up? She hesitated. 6. 6 out of 35. His 3 original friends, she added, and 3 coworkers. I said nothing. They had to move rooms, she continued quietly. Didn't meet the minimum for the rooftop. Of course they didn't. She's been in the bathroom for 20 minutes, she said. Crying. She didn't have to say it. I already knew. I should have felt something. Guilt. Regret. Anything. Net. I didn't. She asked me to come get her, her friend added. But I told her I'd check on you first. I nodded slowly. That was nice of you. She gave me a look. Not judgmental. Not exactly. Just searching. This is really nice, she said, gesturing around the apartment. Yeah, I said. It is. You did this on purpose. It wasn't a question. I met her eyes. Yeah. She exhaled through her nose. That's cold. I tilted my head slightly. So is telling your girlfriend she ruins the vibe. She didn't argue with that. Didn't defend her. Didn't try to soften it. Instead, she stayed. By 10 p.m., she was sitting on the floor, laughing at something ridiculous. By 10:30, she was playing beer pong with Jason like she'd been there all night. And that's when the second wave started. 2 more people from Ethan's party showed up. Then another. Each one walking in with the same slightly awkward expression that melted within minutes. My phone buzzed again, and again, and again. I didn't check it right away. I didn't need to. I already knew who it was. At 11:07 p.m., I finally looked. One message from Ethan. "You're a terrible person. We're done." I stared at it for a long moment. Then I took a screenshot, locked my phone, and set it down on the counter. The party kept going. Midnight turned into 1. 1 turned into 2. At some point, my neighbor knocked on the door. I braced for a complaint. Instead, she looked past me into the apartment, smiled, and said, "Do you have room for one more?" She brought cookies. By 3 a.m., people were still there, some half asleep on the couch, some still talking like the night wasn't ending. I stood in the middle of it for a moment, just taking it in. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt something. Not victory, not satisfaction. Just clarity. Because this wasn't about a party anymore. It never had been. It was about being seen, and realizing all at once that the person I had been building a future with had been quietly ashamed of me. I woke up the next morning at noon, head pounding, apartment wrecked, 7 people asleep in various positions that defied logic. My phone was on the floor next to the couch, 23 unread messages, all from Ethan. Oh, no. I opened them. "We need to talk. I can't believe you did this. You humiliated me. Everyone knows what you did." I scrolled. Faster. "You destroyed my birthday. I hope you're happy." And then, the last one. Sent at 4:12 a.m. "I never want to see you again." Yeah. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I typed one message. Just one. "You told me I'd ruin your party, so I didn't go. Have a good life." I hit send. And then I blocked his number. 3 days later, his mother called me. I didn't recognize the number, almost didn't answer. "You need to talk to my son," she said the second I picked up. No introduction, no hesitation. "I don't think I do. He's devastated." I leaned back against the kitchen counter. "I had a party. He had a party. Mine was more popular. You humiliated him." "No," I said calmly. "His choices did that." "He loves you," she insisted. "He made one mistake and you destroyed him." I closed my eyes briefly. She didn't make one mistake. Silence. Sharp. "She told me I ruined the vibe," I continued. "Uninvited me from something I helped pay for, then got upset when I didn't sit at home alone. You stole his friends. They were my friends first." She exhaled sharply. Then, "She wants to return the ring." My stomach dropped. "What ring?" "The engagement ring." Everything inside me went still. "She found the receipt," his mother continued, 2 months ago. "She's been waiting for you to propose." I didn't breathe. Because there was only one problem. I had never given her the ring. "She has it," his mother said. My blood went cold. "She found it in your apartment last week." The room tilted slightly. "She was going to surprise you," she added, "with dinner." I pushed myself upright, every instinct sharpening at once. "Tell her to leave it in my mailbox," I said, "and her key." And then I hung up. My hands were already moving, opening my laptop, pulling up the security camera app. I had installed it months ago. Basic, living room view. I scrolled through the footage, heart pounding. And then I saw it, the day before the party. Ethan, walking into my apartment, using her key, going straight to my bedroom, and coming back out with a small box in his hand. The ring. I stared at the screen, something cold and final settling into place. Then I picked up my phone and called the police. Not emergency, just calm, controlled. I'd like to report a theft. Because whatever this had been before, it wasn't just about a relationship anymore. It was something else now, something uglier, something that wasn't going to end quietly. And I was done pretending it would. The police report took less time than I expected. 15 minutes on the phone. Another 20 answering follow-up questions. Dates, times, evidence. I spoke clearly, calmly, like I was describing something that had happened to someone else. "So, your ex-boyfriend entered your apartment and took an item without permission?" "My boyfriend at the time," I corrected, "but yes." "Do you have proof?" "I have video footage." A pause. "Then, would you like to press charges?" "Emails." That question sat heavier than everything else. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I understood what it meant. This wasn't just the end of a relationship anymore. This was a line. Once I crossed it, there was no going back. I thought about the footage. Him walking in like he still belonged there, opening drawers that weren't his anymore, taking something that represented a future he had already rejected. Yes, I said. That same day, I changed my locks. $180 at the hardware store. A screwdriver. 2 hours of quiet, methodical work. It felt symbolic, like reclaiming something. Not just my apartment. My space. My boundaries. And that evening, he showed up. I knew it was him before the knocking started. Before the handle turned. Before the sharp, confused pause when the key didn't work. Olivia, his voice through the door. Urgent. Fractured. Open the door. We need to talk. I walked over slowly. Opened it just enough for the chain to catch. Leave the ring and your key in the mailbox, I said. His face changed instantly. What? There's nothing to talk about. You called the police? I filed a report. You're insane. I held his gaze. Return what you took. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing slightly in the hallway. This was for you, he said. The ring was for me to give you. You didn't give it to me, I replied. You took it. I was going to surprise you. You already surprised me, I said quietly, when you told me not to come to your birthday. That landed. Hard. His voice dropped. I made a mistake. You made several. Olivia, leave, I said, or I call them again. He stared at me for a long moment, like he was trying to find the version of me that would soften, that would bend, that would forgive. He didn't find her. I closed the door. He stayed outside for another 10 minutes, knocking, pleading, anger slipping in between desperation, until my neighbor, the one with the cookies, opened her door and told him very clearly to leave. He did, eventually. The next morning, the ring was in my mailbox, along with his key. I held it in my hand for a long time. That small velvet box, all the intention it had once carried, all the meaning it no longer had. Then I put it back in its case and drove to the jeweler. They refunded 75%, $3,200 reduced to something smaller, something practical, something final. I didn't argue, didn't try to get more, because at that point, it wasn't about the money. It was about being done. I thought that would be the end of it. Clean, contained, over. I was wrong. 2 days later, his best friend called. The police contacted him, she said without preamble. He's losing it. He shouldn't have taken something that wasn't his. It was your engagement ring. It was going to be, I corrected. That's not the same thing. She hesitated. You're really going through with this? I already did. You're going to give him a record over a mistake? I exhaled slowly. He broke into my apartment. He had a key. He used it without permission. After we were done, took something, refused to return it until there were consequences. Silence. He says you're trying to destroy him. I almost laughed. Interesting. But then she said something that made my stomach drop. He's telling people you were controlling. The room went very still. What? He's saying you isolated him, made him uncomfortable around your friends, that when he tried to set boundaries about his birthday, you retaliated. Get some. I sat down slowly. Because suddenly, this wasn't contained anymore. This was spreading. I have proof, I said. I know, she replied, but not everyone's going to see that first. They're going to hear the story. And stories have a way of sticking. That afternoon, my coworker stopped by my desk. Hey, she said carefully, can we talk? Something in her tone made my chest tighten. HR got a complaint, she said. For a second, I couldn't breathe.
Betrayal.
About what? Anonymous, she said, but it's about you harassing an ex-boyfriend. I stared at her, because now it made sense. Not just him, his family, his version of the story. I nodded slowly. Okay. The meeting happened an hour later. I brought everything. Texts, screenshots, the video footage, even the police report. And when I explained it, calmly, step by step, the narrative fell apart. We take all complaints seriously, HR said, but this appears to be a personal matter that you've handled appropriately. I nodded, but my hands were still shaking when I left the room, because this had crossed a line I hadn't expected. He hadn't just tried to hurt me emotionally. He had tried to damage my life. That night, his best friend called again. She wants to apologize, she said. I let out a short breath. No, please, just coffee. No. She knows she messed up. So did I said quietly. when I thought this was fixable. There was a pause. Then, the HR thing, that wasn't him. I frowned. What? It was his mom. I laughed. Once. Sharp. Disbelieving. She thought it would make you understand how serious this was. How serious what is? I asked. That he's hurting. I closed my eyes. He uninvited me from his life first, I said. I just didn't fight to stay. Silence. Then, softer. She's talking about hurting herself. My chest tightened, but not in the way she expected. Then call 911, I said. Get her help. Olivia, don't put that on me. I hung up. And then I did something I hadn't planned to do. I called the non-emergency line again. Asked for a wellness check. Because I wasn't cruel. But I also wasn't responsible for saving someone from the consequences of their own actions. It's been 2 months. The police never pursued charges. He returned the ring. That was enough for them. The HR complaint went nowhere. My job is fine, but I kept everything. Every message, every file, every piece of proof. His social media campaign lasted about 3 weeks. Vague posts, words like toxic and abuse thrown into the void. Some people believed him, mostly the ones who didn't know me. The ones who did? They asked questions, looked closer, saw the cracks. The friend group shifted, not dramatically, just quietly. His 3 coworkers stayed loyal. Everyone else drifted. Not because I asked them to, but because people notice when someone rewrites reality too many times. A month later, he tried to throw another party. 5 people came. I heard about it, didn't ask, didn't comment. Last week, I ran into him at a grocery store. He looked smaller, not physically, just less certain. We made eye contact. And then he turned away. Like I was the one who made him uncomfortable now. That night, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. I'm sorry for all of it. You deserve better. I stared at it for a long time. And then I set my phone down. Didn't reply. Didn't block. Just left it there. Because maybe one day I'll be ready to accept that apology. But not today. Today, I'm just someone who learned something the hard way. That the moment someone starts seeing you as an embarrassment is the moment you should stop trying to be understood and start walking away. Was it worth it? Ask me again in a year. For now, I'm just glad I didn't go to that party. Because I finally understand something I didn't back then. It wasn't the night that broke us. It was the truth he revealed in a single sentence. You ruined the vibe. And the fact that, for a while, I almost believed him. Not anymore. Not ever again.